You understand? Basically, if it weren't for Peace Stones and organizations like that, we would have never had the benefit of being able to listen to that and hearing about this artist.
It's also interesting, if you listen to what he's saying, it's a form of social activism. So his lyrics are promoting the development of his country.
I'm just going to talk to you guys a little bit about communication as a tool for hope through the internet. As Webster's dictionary says, communication is the imparting and exchange of information and news. There's many definitions for it. Just basically the exchange of information through two different people. It could be people, groups of people, companies, basically anything. And then we started to look about what communication is in terms of the internet, and basically we decided it's the enhancement of the exchange of information through the use of technology. Now I'm going to start talking to you about a little bit where third world countries were back about just 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Africa had about a population of 700 million people in 1996. They only had 6,500 separate internet connections. Almost all of them were located in South Africa, which is what we all know is the most industrialized part of Africa. A couple were about 50,000 were located in northern Africa, so basically in and around Egypt, and then 40,000 on the rest of the continent. Numbers varied from stuff that I found, but basically they had around 1.5 million internet users in 1996. Still just 0.10% of in the internet usage worldwide. And then we're going to look at India, 1998, population around 1 billion. Similar, actually, which is kind of surprising. They had less internet connections, but you have to understand this was a single country compared to a continent, but they had more internet users. And that's a huge gap right there. You're looking at 700 million people with 650,000 internet connections compared to 1 billion people, 150 internet connections, but more access to it. And just 2 years later, India had 5 million internet users. So, and they went from 0.10% to 0.5% for internet penetration in just 2 years. Sorry, I'm not used to pieces. Right here, this shows a picture of Africa in 1997. The blue regions are where there's national access, not broadband access, mind you, this is just dial-up. We were all using it back then anyways. And then the green countries show secondary city access. So basically, second size city, only on the internet, others outside the larger place. And then this shows the breakdown of internet usage in 1996 worldwide. As you can see, the US dominates it by far, and the rest of the world has about the same as Europe and Australia combined. Now we're going to talk a little bit about where these countries are today. Africa, 2010, population of 1 billion. They now have 10% penetration. There's a growth rate from 2010 to 2000 to 2010, 2,300%. That is ridiculous exponential growth. Like it says there, around 111 million users on the web. India, as we all know, India has become one of the head at leading outsourcing for IT, technical issues, pretty much anything dealing with customer service. None of that would have been possible if it weren't for the boom and explosion of internet in India between 2000 and 2010. Population around 1.2 billion, 115 million web users, 8.5% of penetration throughout the country. And these two images here, the one on the left side shows you a penetration for all of the world. As you can see, internet in Africa is almost non-existent, same as India, a lot of the South Pacific as well. And then across is just a different bar graph for that. And basically what we wanted to talk about is how this exponential growth of internet has led to so much advancements for societies around the world. Education is promoted through the advancement of the internet. People are now able to attend classes in Somalia over the internet that's being taught in Britain or London. You're able to get medical information from doctors halfway around the world to help people in third world countries who would never have that information otherwise. There's tons of jobs created, tons of GDP. The GDP in India, I can't forget the exact figure, can't remember the exact figure, but a staggering growth rate between 2000 and 2010, mainly due to the amount of people that they started educating and companies sending their business over there. Currently in India, if you're working in the IT development area, the wages are growing about 10 to 15% a year solely because the countries are giving India so much of their business now because they have this access to the internet, and so many of their people are graduating with IT degrees and stuff like that, but they need even more because that's how much business we're sending over there. Basically, the advancement in the internet has allowed India to really become a global player and have an impact on the world. In addition to that, we've seen what's happened with social revolution in Egypt and Libya. And the picture is basically going to be a joke at it, but it's not like that anymore. In 2010, Africa contained 17 million Facebook users. That's more than 17 times the amount of people they had on the internet in 1998. In just 15 years. It's ridiculous. And now we're just going to play a little bit about the Facebook revolution in Egypt. I could talk about it, but I believe they do a lot better job.
The peaceful Egyptian revolution had a distinct goal, but no clear leader. Yet from the masses, a handful emerged, including Wael Ghonim. His tweets offered both a narrative and a nudge to protesters.
He's been sort of tweeting every day, almost every hour, and he's developed quite a mass of followers. He's become a figurehead of this revolt. I guess we can now call it a revolution.
It's generally acknowledged that Ghanim's Facebook page first sparked the protests. Titled "We Are All Khalid Said," it memorialized an Egyptian businessman who had been beaten to death by police after threatening to expose corruption. The page called for protests on January 25th. That became known as the Day of Wrath, as thousands poured onto the streets. Ghanim's arrest by Egyptian authorities on January 28th and release 12 days later only added to his legend. When Ghanim is mentioned, usually his company is too.
Google executive Wael Ghonim created a Facebook page that...
He's the Middle East and North Africa marketing manager at Google. So far, Google has commented only briefly. We can't comment on his personal beliefs. He's on leave at the moment, and we look forward to having him back at Google.
It's a little bit tricky here, this relationship here, because this is an employee of Google, yes, but he's acting on his own time.
Robert Solomon says companies in emerging markets like Egypt, where governments are big customers, need to be careful not to bite the hand that feeds them.
Is this connection likely a good thing or a bad thing for Google?
Well, on the one hand, it could be a bad thing, to the extent that Ghanim's activities raise some questions or jeopardize some relationships that Google has in Egypt. However, it might be a good thing if people now view Google as a good place to work and a place that allows young people to have a voice.
A voice which ushered in a social revolution in Egypt, where the most powerful weapon was social networking. Seth Doan, CBS News, New York.
And just a little bit about this. I don't know if you guys know or have heard of the cobra that got released from the Bronx Zoo. Someone started a Twitter page for it. Gomir, I can't pronounce his name correctly, so I'm not going to. So the CEO executive, his Facebook page was the only thing in the past about 3 months that was able to gain Twitter followers at a pace similar to the Bronx Zoo cobra, and it had over 200,000 followers within, I think, 4 hours, something like that. So it was ridiculous the amount of people following this man and trying to literally, the second that he was detained, there was literally an uproar in the Egyptian Social Revolution Society. And you also have to think about the fact that without the internet and without its abundance in Egypt, this would have never been possible. The rule of Gaddafi would still, not Gaddafi, would still be intact. This would have never changed. The way the United States Revolution started was by small meeting towns, small meeting houses, things like that. This is the same thing, but now on a much larger scale. People are able to meet from all around the world and convene ideas.